Welcome to the Front Garden, brought to you by Coolabah Turf. Visit Victoria's premium instant turf supplier at coolturf.com.au.
Welcome to the Front Garden, brought to you by Coolabah Turf, proud supporters of the landscaping industry. I'm Chris Weiss, and today we're joined by Jocelyn Bennett from Earthcore Landscapes. Based out of the beautiful Yarra Valley, she's the design brain behind the incredible boutique garden that took out gold at this year's MIFGS. Working alongside her partner Liam, who handles the construction side of things. Today we're going to chat about inspiration behind that garden and the experience of MIFGS, and also what it's like to build a business. Jocelyn, welcome to the Front Garden.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Now, can you take us back to the beginning? How did you get into landscape design?
A bit of an interesting one. I kind of fell into landscape design. I guess I started in engineering straight out of high school.
There you go.
I lasted all of 6 weeks before deciding it wasn't for me. And then I ended up working. My parents weren't too keen on a gap year, although taking time to go overseas. So I ended up working at a wholesale nursery. My boss there was really passionate about horticulture. I learnt a lot from him. And from that, I kind of thought, there's this whole other world of study I didn't really know existed.
Yeah.
So I went into a diploma of horticulture, and then from there it was so easy just to flip across and do landscape design as well as a double diploma.
Right.
So started that, and then I think COVID hit. No, this is before COVID, sorry.
Pre-COVID. It's all right. It's hard. It's our benchmark, isn't it? Pre-COVID,
yeah,
post-COVID.
Pre-COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
So started studying the diplomas and then ended up studying the Bachelor of Landscape Architecture. I felt I wanted to kind of move my studies along a bit. Throughout all that time, I continued working at nurseries, and then I ended up gardening, private garden maintenance with a lady. We managed a few gardens in inner east suburbs, Camberwell, Caulfield, east, southeast. Again, learnt so much from my boss there. Diverse range of gardens, a lot of different plants, all exotic, funny enough. Because now I work almost primarily in native plants.
Right, it's a bit of a shift, yeah.
A bit of a shift there, but invaluable experience. I think all of that has really helped my career as a designer, that plant knowledge.
Definitely,
fundamental. And then, studied landscape architecture. Then a really great opportunity came up, STEM landscape architecture. They were hiring, saw an ad on Instagram. I think I ticked maybe 2 of the criteria for her job ad out of 10.
Right.
Went for it anyway, threw my hat in the ring.
Yeah, well done.
Got the job.
Perfect.
I think I met Em and we just got along really well. We shared a lot of the same values, like those root values.
Right.
Worked for her throughout my degree.
How long was the degree?
I studied it over 4 years.
Okay.
I think, 4 years through COVID.
Yeah, right.
Post-COVID. And then I met Liam studying the diploma. So Liam runs the construction side, as you mentioned, of Earthcore Landscapes.
Yeah.
His business kind of grew pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I ended up helping behind the scenes with a lot of that when I wasn't studying or working with STEM.
Right.
And then found that, we got really busy. So I left STEM, finished my degree and ended up working full-time with Liam running Earthcore Landscapes.
Right, and here you are today.
Here we are today.
Going back to the engineering way back then, what was it about? What sort of area of engineering were you interested in?
I was interested in product design.
Yeah.
But that first year, it's broad. You study everything.
Yeah.
And that was just a bit too much. Also, wasn't for me. It was a bit too technical. I didn't want to end up in an office forever.
Yeah.
So, called it quits pretty quick.
And so you're based out in the Yarra Valley?
Yes.
What drew you to that area? I guess, and you mentioned the shift from exotic plants. Now you're primarily native or all native. So what was that? Was it based on your experience about obviously the landscape out there is quite rugged and natural? Yeah,
so I grew up in the Dandenong Ranges, or I think you've got a bit of both, the exotic and the native. You've got these beautiful forests and then all these exotic hills, gardens.
Yeah.
Liam grew up in Warburton, and so I think Yarra Valley is kind of the middle point of those areas.
Yeah.
And that rugged nature, the openness.
Yeah.
We really love it.
And what does the typical design process I guess, look like for you from that initial brief? Are you doing the consultations, or is that with Liam? How does that all work?
Yeah, so I run through the whole design process. I do work quite collaboratively with Liam at that initial sketch stage with the concept. I'll be like, hey, this is the brief, this is the property. I think having that direct tie to construction is invaluable because it's that first step in design. I know I'm not designing anything that's unfeasible. Like what I design can be built, which is pretty cool to have that direct access to that knowledge.
Yes.
But no, I start with the design process. So a client will get in touch with the company, and then that's often through Liam because his number is the number on the website. And he'll pass it along to me straight away. I'll get in touch with the client, arrange a consult.
Yes.
From there, our design processes look pretty varied depending on the project. So we cater to a lot of different clients and their needs.
Yes.
But a standard process, be a consult out on site, meet all the stakeholders, hopefully. Yep. That would be the aim. Get an idea of the site. Chat about the brief.
Yes.
Then write up a proposal. So kind of synthesize all of that knowledge, everything that was obtained from that meeting into a written format so that everyone's on the same page. And then, if they choose to go ahead, we go back out to site, do a proper site analysis. Some projects will get a site survey for. It really depends on the location, how complicated the site is, existing features and so on. And then, we'll go through, I guess, the real designing, starting with hand sketching. The fun part. Fun and scary part. Yeah. I think, I say to myself over and over again, just trust the process. The process because until you get to that end stage, it can look pretty rough. Yes. You just got to trust that
it'll work out.
Yeah.
It'll work out. With that process, so I think a lot of people starting out in design can spend a bit of extra time trying to figure out, like, not wasting time, but people that inquire that, aren't going to be a good fit for what you're offering. And it may be more of a question for Liam as well, but how do you guys go about screening those people that you can sort of tell this isn't going to be a fit for us? Is there a way you've nutted that out early?
Yeah, so that was a pretty steep learning curve for us because, there are quite a few people who they're either time wasters, they're not actually serious about the project, or, not the right fit.
Yeah.
We haven't often had people who aren't the right fit. I think we've always had a fairly good portfolio or an understanding of what we do because Liam's been doing this for quite a while now by himself. So we had a bit of a portfolio, could show clients. And then just being upfront, I think, about cost as well. That's a bit scary for us because we want the clients, but that's a really good indicator of if they're serious about the project. Totally. They'll accept the cost.
It's worth having that conversation early. It doesn't change, does it, the cost? I mean, generally it goes up, but at least it's an idea straight away.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you looked at consultation fees and things like that to sort of value your time in that regard?
Yeah, so all the design consults, they've got a consultation fee attached. Some projects will just go out to quote. That's just quoting. You don't charge for quoting.
Sure.
But it depends on how much of an idea the clients have about what they want done.
Yeah.
If they know exactly what they want, we'll just quote the project. So that's, I guess, where the construction side of things comes in.
Yeah.
If they don't really know, that's when it turns into a design consult.
Yeah, nice one. Now, you and Liam, is it just a professional partnership or relationship, or is there? I wasn't sure how to ask that, to be honest. I'm sure because you're partners out in and out of work. Yeah,
yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How does that go? How does that work? Working together, and then coming home, or seeing each other out of work as well.
Yeah, it's I think we've got to set pretty firm boundaries.
Yeah.
Because otherwise our whole lives will just be work. And I mean that's the case when you run a small business anyway.
Yes.
But setting those boundaries, we do work quite well together. Yep. We've got our defined fields and areas that we work in. So sure. I think we're not working on top of each other all the time, which is, I think, needed.
Absolutely, yes.
So no, we're partners in business and
partners in crime. Yeah. Have you got an office? Like, do you have to go to an office so you're able to separate like that, or is it a home setup?
No, I just work from home.
Yeah.
We've got a home office. I haven't really found a space close enough to me to invest in.
Yeah.
Being out in the Yarra Valley, I don't want to have to drive half an hour or 40 minutes a day when I don't need to. maybe down the track we'll build a studio on our property, or I'm not sure. But at the moment, just working from home.
Comfortable as it is.
Quite happy with that.
Yeah, great.
I get out and about on site enough anyway.
Now, tell us about MIFGS. So, Melbourne Flower and Garden Show, for people who don't understand the acronym of MIFGS, but where did the concept for that garden come from?
So the concept for that garden, I guess, something quite close to both of us. Growing up in the Dandenong Ranges and the Yarra Valley, we had a lot of exposure to forest landscapes, waterways, that kind of thing. And just the peace that we find in those spaces, so the internal calm, we wanted to share that with the audience, with everyone,
right.
And bring that to life. And I think, that's what we tried to do.
And talk to us about, because I think people that don't understand the constraints, the budget, give us a really good understanding of what that looked like, how you got into it, what made you do it, and then what were the parameters that you had to work around.
So I guess we entered the boutique gardens because we had a lot of, I guess, industry colleagues, friends who had done it before us, and we thought, that's a really cool thing to do. Both having studied at TAFE as well, you have the opportunity to do the Achievable Gardens. Liam actually got into the Achievable Gardens 2020,
right.
And then COVID hit.
No.
So that never eventuated. So I guess by the time we re-entered, it was time to move on to something bigger.
Yeah.
So we entered in the boutique gardens. Actually, one of the harder designs I've done because there's no brief. There's we're the clients.
You think that'd be easy, wouldn't you? But then you don't have anything to start.
There's no constraint.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I've experienced that myself.
Total freedom.
Yeah. And so, because it goes Achievables, boutique, and then obviously you can do the main show gardens. That's right. There's sort of 3 levels.
Yeah.
And with the space that you had, what was the size of the space that you actually had?
So 25 square metres, 5 by 5 metres.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any slope or anything on it, or was it?
A little bit of a slope. That was quite hard to, I guess, design around. Because we entered the design before we know whether we get in, we don't know what our site would be. And then you get allocated a site and you have the opportunity to go in and survey and try and get the site levels. But at the end of the day, those sites move left or right by a metre. So those levels you're kind of working with on the spot.
Yeah.
Which when you're pre-ordering steel edging, as we had, like a big boundary around our garden,
right?
You can't really depict those levels till you're on site.
Would you prefer less, more slope? I mean, sometimes the slope can be good. Did you get what you wanted, basically, the spot that you wanted?
We actually had to build up our slope because we had a creek in our garden. We needed fall for the creek. Yeah. Can't have a creek on a flat. No. 100% flat block. And we also needed a reservoir for that water. Yeah. So we needed about 300 mil makeup, like a tank basically at the bottom of the creek. So we had to build our whole site up and then the back of the site up even further. So that was a bit of a challenge, but just something you had to design for and be aware of.
Because you can't penetrate the ground. You can't, nothing goes in. So people looking at those gardens would not understand the level of difficulty that is to do like anything without, you think about not being able to put a star picket in the ground.
Yeah, no, that was
insane.
That was really interesting to design for as well, and then construct a whole nother ballpark.
Yeah.
We laid geofab down and that was it. Couldn't go below that.
That's tough. And talk to us about the budget.
Look, we got gifted, I guess, Landscape Vic. I mean, everyone gets a little bit of an allowance. It's just a marketing thing, really. It comes down to marketing. That's what we allow for. Yeah. We actually reused, so we were lucky enough. I mean, I say lucky, but the amount of planning that went into this, I guess it's all predicted, not so much luck. But we managed to get a lot of our plants on loan.
Sure.
I think we had something like 1,799 plants in our display.
Really? Wow.
Which was radical for 25 square metres.
Yeah, plus a river.
Plus a creek and a deck and a path. Yeah. So we got, I think, most of those plants on loan. So there goes a lot of the cost. Any plants that weren't on loan, we actually put into projects we had just after the show. And then all of our materials were either on loan or reused. So minimal cost there. Yep. I mean, upfront cost, but then reuse it down the track.
Yep.
Which I guess ties into we really like to be sustainable at wherever we can. Yeah. So reusing those materials is a kind of no-brainer to us.
Yeah.
But I guess you've got the overheads. I mean, we're paying our guys to be there to build for us.
Yes. How long did you have to knock it up?
9 days.
Okay.
We didn't have the whole team there for the entire 9 days.
They were out making some money somewhere else.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there was actually about 3 or 4 days where I kicked everyone out just to focus on plants.
2,000 plants to put down.
Yeah, bit of a perfectionist. I needed that space just to think. But yeah, a bit of a cost, but it's all marketing.
And shout out to the nurseries who
absolutely.
The suppliers. Who were they?
Latrobe Wildlife Sanctuary actually supplied a lot of our plants. They're all tube stock, Indigenous to Melbourne, which was fantastic. Kurunga Native Nursery, of course, great help. They gave us all our weird and wacky plants,
nice.
Which I just loved.
Yeah.
Humphreys as well, Warners.
Because I know with Warners in particular, the amount of trucks that they bring in for just that weekend is phenomenal. Hats off to them. They do such an amazing job. Because talk about cost.
Oh, and Speciality Trees actually as well. Another huge sponsor. And again, the amount of trucks that come in. Yeah. It's crazy.
Talk to us about the most stressful part about the process. Surely everything didn't go according to plan.
No.
Was there a leak in the creek?
Oh gosh, we were worried about that. We did everything in our power to
give the creek to everyone else down the road, down the hill. Yeah.
Oh no, that was a bit of a stress, just making sure. I mean, that's a stress with any project.
Water.
You don't want a leak in your water feature.
Yeah.
But I'd actually say the most stressful part was the lead up.
Right.
All the planning. I think that the logistics, the planning, the making sure you've got plants, sourcing plants was actually incredibly stressful because seasonally, March for Australian natives, nothing's in flower.
Yeah, sure.
Compared to what's available in other times of the year. But once we got to site, like once the build started, it wasn't as stressful as I pictured.
Right.
I mean, obviously there's stress. There's always stress with a build, but it was a really fun environment.
Yes.
And I remember it being really quiet compared to what I anticipated as well. Like the whole atmosphere, it was really interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was the weather? It would have been hot and dry.
Didn't have a day. The only day of rain we had was that Sunday before it started, where we went and set out our site. We just laid the geofab.
Right.
We got absolutely drenched.
Right.
But no other rain. It was beautiful.
So nothing had to change sort of unexpectedly midway through?
No, we did that much planning and prefab. We had all the materials sorted. Steel, Shapescaper supplied all the steel for our project. They were just fantastic. So I think a bit of stress around that just because, again, couldn't penetrate the ground. So supporting.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Oh, framing. Just frame it all up on the inside. But making sure there are no bends or like the edges weren't warped. That was pretty tricky, but we got there. And Shapescaper were incredibly supportive throughout that.
Oh, good on them. And what advice would you give? I guess first of all, is it too soon to see the benefits of that marketing exercise, or how do you quantify? Yes, it was worthwhile, and we'll see you next year, or we're still TBC on that.
I think a bit of both. The number one takeaway I think is industry recognition. Just working around the networking, meeting other people in the industry. We're a small business. We work on private projects and properties.
Yeah.
It's you meet people, but not, I guess, all the time.
Sure.
Meeting a lot of people in real life too. Like we've networked with people over Instagram and social media.
Yes.
So meeting those people in real life was awesome.
Yeah.
In terms of future projects, we've had a couple of interesting leads, but not overwhelming feedback yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was kind of expected. We'd heard that from previous participants. But I've also heard that people don't tend to get in touch with you because they think, they'll be flat out. They just want the flower show. I mean, they'll be too busy to take our call.
Yes.
So people often see results a year later.
And you'll be able to market it. Sorry, you'll be able to market it going forward, I'd imagine.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is worthwhile. You don't have to worry about the client not letting you take photos or whatever else.
Yeah, that's right.
So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about entering for the first time? Just
give it a shot.
Yeah.
The worst they can say is no, not this year.
Yeah.
We actually entered a few times before getting in, and I guess
because is it hard to get in? Is like the actual process to get the opportunity?
I mean, you got to enter.
Yeah.
I guess it's a competition. Apply.
Yeah.
And then you got to be selected as the five for the boutique, the 5 finalists out of everyone who applies.
Right.
No idea who applied or how many.
Yeah.
And then it's out of those 5 finalists, I guess, who comes first, second, or third. But You just have to apply. You've got to be ready to apply. I can't remember when applications open, but have your design done before then, because otherwise you just
adds to the pressure.
Yeah, adds to the pressure unnecessarily. But yeah, just give it a shot. The worst they can say is no.
And does that mean you're back next year? Put you on the spot. Everyone's listening.
Yeah, that was the number one question. I was like, all right, so show garden next year? I was like, not sure.
Yeah.
We haven't given much thought to it, to be honest, and it's already June, which is unbelievable.
Yes.
I guess it took a while to recover from MIFGS in the first place.
Yeah.
Look, it's something we really enjoyed. I understand the kind of addictive nature of it. It is actually a lot of fun, but it's also exhausting and the time and resources. Yeah. So we'll see.
Now, back to you mentioned your design sort of philosophy being around native plants, sustainability and everything else. Are there particular landscapes or other architects or things that inspire your work?
Coolabah Turf is an award-winning grower of premium, drought-tolerant, self-repairing instant turf for Victorian residential, council and commercial landscape customers. Create the perfect backyard with your next project. The kind where barefoot kids chase balls and dreams, where family pets run wild and free, and where summer barbecues with friends and neighbours turn into memories that last a lifetime. Get in touch with the friendly crew at Coolabah Turf today. Call 1800 055 515 or visit coolturf.com.au. LV members who mention this ad will get free delivery on their first order.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess it's hard not to mention STEM landscape architecture in this setting. As someone I've worked closely with, and we continue to work closely with Em and her team. But I guess beyond that, Peter Shaw, Ocean Road Landscaping.
Yes, spoken to Peter.
Yeah, listen to that one.
Yeah.
One of my early inspirations, I think. I've always loved his work. I guess the rugged, raw kind of nature. I mean, it's hard not to with totally. That environment, but just the creativeness and the sort of playfulness he brings to his projects as well. That I really love that. I've gone.
Is there somewhere else around, I guess, this country that you think you haven't been that you'd love to visit for inspiration? Central
Australia, and I guess those desert landscapes. We took a trip up to Broken Hill and the deserts around that, and we went after rain, so the desert landscapes and those flowers were pretty incredible to see. I like the dry landscapes. I can't see myself drawing inspiration from the tropics. I guess we're in a temperate rainforest down here in the Dandenong Ranges those kind of dry, where you've got those constraints to work with, and I think that's why I'm drawn to those coastal landscapes as well. Yeah, I'd imagine there'd be some fascinating plants that could survive on next to nothing in those harsh environments. Yeah, which I think it's great to have that kind of knowledge and that, I guess, openness to those plants in this ever-changing world. I mean, it's certainly getting warmer, isn't it? Yeah, and even topsoil quality is not great in a lot of places. So, working with plants that survive all sorts of conditions. Very good. And do you have a favourite planting sort of palette or material that you're leaning on at the moment? It's a really hard question. I feel like I'm still exploring a lot of palettes quite early on in my career. I really love working with textures first before moving to colour. So working with foliage before flowers, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I just think that leads to an interesting landscape year-round rather than relying on flowers. Nice one. And how do you approach sustainability? Obviously, is it more, or you tell us, is it more the plants selections, require a lot less water, or are you harvesting rainwater, or does it depend on the client? How does all of that work? Really depends on the client. We try not to design with irrigation in mind, just so we're working with the available climate and environment. Really hard in Melbourne when you've got years of rain and years of no rain, but trying to work with what we've got. Look, if the clients have access to rainwater or rainwater harvesting, that's always a bonus. But I guess sustainability moves past planting. We really try and work with what's existing. So trying not to demolish an entire property or landscape before going in. So working with existing features, reusing materials where possible. I guess that's really hard to do in a business setting because that takes time planning. You've got to be patient, wait for the right materials to come up. But yeah, reusing materials like secondhand.
Yes.
Yeah, where possible.
Limiting the waste, hey?
Yeah, limiting waste. That's a really big thing for us.
And what about trends and things? Do you follow the trends? Do you create trends, or do you just steer clear of trends?
Oh, I guess it depends what you mean by trend, but we design native landscapes. We construct native landscapes. So within that, I mean, yeah, I guess you're sort of following a trend.
Yes, yeah.
You're always getting inspiration from different places. But I think working with the environment and existing conditions, it's hard to work entirely to a trend.
Yes.
Because you're focusing on what's there, trying to create something that'll last and be sustainable. So,
is there something that you think is blatantly obvious that is underrated or underused, and you can't understand why no one else uses it, that you've found?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I'd wish I could say yes, because that would be really cool to know of something like that. But no.
Groundbreaker, groundsetter.
No, I can't say to
Something. Have a think. Maybe that'll come to you later on.
Yeah, it might come to me.
Where do you do predominantly most of your work? Because it is quite a niche. Someone that wants a native sort of look guard, it's more of a niche, I guess, than the exotic sort of stuff. So where do you find a lot of your work comes from, and what sort of properties are they?
Yeah, so we work on a really diverse range of properties for a really diverse range of clients.
Right.
So I think a lot of our work comes from, I guess, the northern kind of Warrandyte, Panton Hill, St Andrews area, through the Yarra Valley, out towards like Murrindindi. So
they're bigger properties, or not necessarily?
Yeah, sometimes, but not necessarily. We work on a lot of smaller blocks in the Yarra Valley, especially. Like we've got some really small properties in like the town centres, but we're right down into Gippsland, Mornington Peninsula.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So broad range.
And going back to a sort of a businessy sort of related questions, what's something you've learnt the hard way about the business structure you've got at the moment?
I guess keeping it small, growing slowly. We grew not massively, but we grew pretty quickly.
Yeah.
At one point in time, learnt very quickly that wasn't working.
Sorry, is that in the office, or is that just in general?
On site.
On site, yeah.
So growing slowly and employing the right people for the right job.
Yes.
Not just not accepting any help that comes your way.
Just numbers on seats, so to speak.
Yeah.
The right people, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
And if you had to ever really completely redesign something due to unexpected conditions on site that you've rocked up and it's not, I mean, Warrandyte, that imagine be lots of rock and, as you say, really a lack of topsoil completely. Yeah,
we have had, look, as soon as you hit a big rock, that you design around the rock. There's a great one in Mount Evelyn, actually, where we hit this enormous, I think it was granite rock, and it was in the middle of what was supposed to be a flat lawn area because we were excavating out of the side of a hill, so you couldn't see.
No.
And the rock has just become this enormous play feature in the middle of this lawn. Yeah.
And don't have to mow it.
No, don't have to mow it.
Don't have to water it, don't have to mow it. Perfect.
Yeah, but other than that, I think having that connection to construction.
Yes.
We try and weed out any of those unforeseen design changes before we get to site. There's always going to be something, especially underground.
Yes.
You don't know what's there.
Yes. And that's what I think, and obviously we're both biased running design and construction companies, but there was a post a little while ago, someone was saying that that's just not a benefit to have one company do design and construction. And, I just can't see how it wouldn't be for exactly that reason. There's something unforeseen on site. You're able to quickly speak to the team in the office. That just makes it such an easier conversation and process.
Absolutely. The fluidity between those two, I guess, facets of the industry.
Yeah.
I think is really valuable.
With all this stuff, though, is there any tricky, client expectations, and how do you manage that?
I guess communication.
Yeah.
So because we are design and construct, I manage client communication almost entirely. So I will start right from the design process through to the end of construction and even into maintenance if it's one we're maintaining. Having that one point of communication I think is really important. And then having, I guess, me communicating with the team.
Yes.
If you've got too many people communicating with the client, messages get lost.
Yes.
So I think having that. And then trying to weed out the clients when they first contact us, making sure we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for us.
Yeah.
And having exit points. So right from the very start, they're not locked in to go with us for the entire design or the entire construction. We haven't had a client yet take an exit point, or we haven't said, look, we don't think this is working.
Sure.
So generally our client relationships are really great.
Yep.
But those options there, I guess, as a safety net for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think with all the information that is available for clients that they're more educated, or they're just more opinionated at the moment post-COVID? The expectations seem to have gone up.
Yeah. I think they can be quite opinionated. I guess a bit of both. Depends on the client.
Yes. And most, as we know, 99% of them are fantastic and everything else, but there's so much information out there now, it can get confusing.
As a designer, though, I love it when a client comes to me with a full, bookmarked Pinterest folder of inspiration. It's like, great, there's visual references. We know we're on the same page.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But at the same time, it makes my job a bit harder. I've got to be really clear that, look, I know you love this inspiration, but it's not feasible for your project or your property.
On the side of the hill, yeah.
But look, this is what's feasible. We can do this instead, drawing on inspiration. So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, communication.
Get some sort of direction. And so where do you see Earthcore heading in the next few years?
We're not too sure. I guess we'll see.
Because so at the moment, how many construction have you got? How many?
We've got 3 full-time construction, including Liam.
Yeah.
And then there's just me in the office.
Perfect.
So I think we'd like to set it up so there's a bit more flexibility. I mean, it's a small business still at the moment, and we work long hours, weekends, public holidays.
Oh, no, don't say that.
We're pretty strict with weekends. We'd like to take a weekend, but if a trailer needs unpacking, it gets unpacked.
Yeah, well done. It's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, so small business owners will understand. It's, all part of it. So
you're in good company.
Yeah, setting up ways where we can limit that,
yes.
I think is the number one priority.
The phrase that probably gets used a little bit too often is that work-life balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere in between. But everyone we speak to that's been in the industry for 25 years says how important work-life balance is, but they forget that the first 10 years there's no work-life balance.
Yeah.
So you sort of got to do the time.
Yeah.
I think. And then, what about if there was no budget or time constraints, nothing was a factor? What is your dream project? Where would it be and what are you doing?
Jeez, okay. Dream project.
Yeah, dream everything.
First thing that comes to mind is a big farm property, old farmhouse, existing trees.
Is it flat or is it hilly?
It's not flat. It's not steep.
It's a perfect property.
Yeah, just a bit of rolling hills, beautiful vista. That to me, I guess that's my dream. Not too much garden, productive space. Yeah, I guess that beautiful. I don't know, designing place instead of gardens.
Destination, a lifestyle for whoever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the boutique garden, the gold, flows on to all of that, and in a couple of years you'll be building on the rolling hills, but it's not too steep, not too flat. But thanks a lot for coming in, Jocelyn. Really appreciate your time, and all the best going forward.
Thank you for having me.
This has been The Front Garden, brought to you by Coolabah Turf. If you've got a question or something you'd love us to explore, shoot us an email at tfg@landscapingvictoria.com.au. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your favourite podcast. We'll catch you next time on The Front Garden.